right, everybody, welcome to the LaughED podcast. My name is John Spike, and I'm filling in today for legendary singer-songwriter Randy Newman, who is currently in Branson, Missouri, recording the album for Toy Story 15. All right, and I am super excited today. We've got Gregg Eilers, or Gregg Beef Eilers, as he was known, with us in the studio. And Gregg is a dear friend of mine. We go way back to last summer.
Yes,
Gregg, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey, yeah, and side note, Gregg Beef Eilers was just a nickname for, like, literally 2 weeks, so it's about as far as that goes.
What was the origin story you were explaining before we started?
So this was circa 1989, 6th grade. Wendy's was kind of a big thing. Their big slogan was, "Where's the beef?" And for some reason, a group of friends of mine decided that would be funny to call people beef, and so they called me beef. It was not because of my weight. I was a pretty skinny, small, redheaded kid, so had
You were
nothing to do with that. But
svelte,
I gue
svelte
yeah,
kid, svelte kid,
yes,
right?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. Maybe I
yeah.
smelled like beef. I don't know. Weird.
Who's
Great.
that kid?
It's
Who's that
me.
kid in our class who smells like beef? Yeah, it's Eilers. Let's
Yep, that's
call him
me.
Beef.
Me.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I'm out here in Modesto, California. Um, Been in education for about almost 20 years now. Was a 6th grade teacher for 15 years, and I'm at our county office of education in Stanislaus County out here in Modesto. So honored to be on the show with you.
And Gregg, I gotta say you've been in education 20 years. It doesn't look like a day over five.
Well,
If
thank you.
I'm being honest, I gotta say.
I
Um,
appreciate that.
Yeah, you know what? I have a really interesting nickname origin story. What was big when I was going through high school was, do you ever watch World's Strongest Man?
Yeah, 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 yeah.
So there was a guy named Yanni Virtanen. He
Okay,
was a big Norwegian strongman, and I'm quite Norwegian.
I can
Those of
tell.
you listening to the podcast can't see it, but I am quite Norwegian. And he was this Norwegian strongman, and I was the opposite of a Norwegian strongman in high
Okay.
school. I was 5 foot nothing and 100 pounds soaking wet. They didn't call me Beef, but they called me Yanni Virtanen, Gregg. So there you
True
go.
story. Is that a true
Yeah,
story?
that is based on a true story.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna bring that back. I'm gonna start calling you that now from now on. That's
That's
amazing.
a if Yanni Virtanen starts trending on Twitter
Yeah.
because of me, I'll be proud. I'll
Well,
be
no,
proud.
why?
So, Gregg, I'm excited. So what I do on the LaughED podcast is I ask people to kind of send me their ideas for what kind of stories they want to share, and I intentionally don't have them tell me much because I want to hear what they're about. But I'm already like jacked for Gregg's stories because they're equal parts nostalgic, creepy, gross. They just check a lot of great LaughED boxes. So, Gregg, why don't you start with your first? And this is the beginning of our segment called Tales of Classroom Comedy. All right, that won't come through great in the video, but I'll clean it up in
Amazing.
post-production. Tales of Classroom Comedy. So, Gregg, let's hear your first tale of classroom comedy.
Yeah. Okay. So the first one we're gonna go. I have to go with my first year teaching. Everybody remembers their first year in the classroom. Um, Again, I was teaching 6th grade. Again, originally I wanted to be a primary teacher, and so keep in mind, like, I did not want to be in 6th grade or above, but that was the only job at the time. So I'm still getting to know my students, through the school year and all that type of thing. Um, all like most of the students are taller than me anyway, so that's awkward.
I
So
feel you there. I
right,
feel you
yeah,
there.
yeah. So comes state testing time, and by this time I feel like I've developed a pretty good rapport with the kids. What could go wrong? Just state testing. I'm proctoring. Everything's gonna go fine. Very first day, I've got a really, really smart student, and she's come to find out, like, super nervous about the test, like, just way, way, way too nervous. And I could see it, and I'm trying to calm her down. So we're in all of our rows, getting ready to take the exam. And I go over to my desk to grab one thing before we begin. And all of a sudden, and this is, to this day, it amazes me that there was no sound to this. Somebody actually came up to me and said, "Mr. Eilers, uh, Joyce, we'll call her Joyce. Joyce just threw up all over her desk, like
No.
literally all over, like shrapnel on like other people's.
Puke shrapnel.
Yeah, so gross. Um, and so I'm like, "What? No way." And so I go over there, sure enough, it's all over the place. And the poor girl is just mortified, right? She's,
Sure.
she doesn't know what to do. And so I'm trying to calm her down while trying to get the smell out because we're about to start state testing. And so I'm calming her down, and everybody's jazzed because again, this is my first year like coming in to teach. Everybody's like super jacked up about state testing because of the snacks that we have. Like everybody loves snack time in between testing. I didn't know this. I didn't know what's going on. So one student comes up to me after the cleanup of the barf and he goes, "Mr. Eilers, does that mean that we can't have snack during the middle of the test now?"
That is fantastic. That's like the survival of the fittest, like, mentality of the other
Yeah,
students. They're like, "All right, that's too bad for her," but they're immediately thinking like, "Oh, no, I've been counting on
yeah,
those goldfish,
granola
since
bar.
I woke up
Gotta
this
have a
morning."
granola bar. Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah, no doubt.
for sure.
So that was funny, but really, I think the funniest part in kind of a demented way was, to prove that this is what happened to the actual test, because this is paper, so this is
Yeah.
before, you know, the way we do testing now, is we had to literally send the test back to the California Department of Ed, proving that this lady ralphed all of her tests, and that's what actually happened to it. And so
Oh,
I've always felt sorry for the person that literally had to open up that bag and smell. That's so bad.
did you have to, like, wrap it in, like, the biohazard tape when you sent it into them, or don't you
L
know?
No, literally, it was like a Ziploc bag. That was it. That's what was
A
done.
Ziploc bag
Yeah.
with your giant handwriting that says, "Sorry, dash
Yeah.
beef," right?
Yep. Yes.
On behalf of beef, I am sorry. I had to bring beef back in. You knew that was coming, right?
Well done. Well played.
So I'm just trying to wrap my head around it. Think about how many times, I don't know if like you've got a great relationship with your Department of Ed. Like it's always like hit or miss in Wisconsin, great things, highs and lows. But I think
Right.
of how many people wanted to mail something to our Department of Ed. And this was like your chance. But you were this bright-eyed new teacher,
Yeah.
like you thought the world was your oyster, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you come to find out like the world is full of puke shrapnel,
That's it.
and kids who are looking out for next man up for who's going to get them a granola bar. Yeah. That
That's
one,
exactly right.
that is, oh my gosh, that's
It was
amazing. I,
bad.
I
It was
feel
bad.
like you've really set the bar high for future LaughED stories,
Or really low.
or really some lowbrow humor to lead things off for sure. Oh, that
But
is good.
truly like that, those memories stick out in your brain. I mean, that's one of the best things about being a teacher is like those types of moments only happen in a classroom, like
Oh yeah.
nowhere else. And so so
Oh, well, you have set yourself up for a challenge, my friend, because now we've got
okay.
your second tale of classroom comedy. What do you
Okay.
got for us, Greg?
Okay. So story number 2 goes like this is probably year 4, year 5 teaching. So no more barfing at state test time. We're past that. Um, I had, every once in a while I'd have my students just do a free write, to start out our day, typical bell work type of stuff. And the prompt of this specific day just happened to be about, what was your biggest fear? Like, what do you fear? What are you scared of? And of course, sixth graders were like, nothing. I'm not scared of nothing. No. Like, whatever. So to get them going, I decided, well, I'll write up my own story, like something that their teacher is afraid of. So full disclosure, like I'm deathly scared of clowns. I will never see it. Like none of that is not appealing to me at all. So that's what I wrote about. I wrote about my fear of clowns and why, and I've had nightmares ever since. My mom threw me that 5-year-old birthday party where clowns came to my
Very
home.
cliche, like,
Yeah, yeah.
like this is a movie
This
plot
is
right now
going
going
deep. This is
on.
going deep, John.
Yeah.
Um, so I always have my students read aloud, and of course I read mine aloud, so everybody knew kind of my fear. And there was like, I think two other students in my class that also were scared of clowns. And before this, my students didn't know that I had a fear of clowns, and so it was just, um, you know, by chance that we were fearful of clowns. So, anyways, we find that we have that in common, and literally probably like 10 minutes go by after we've read these stories. No joke. Door opens up to my classroom. A clown peeks in the door, says nothing. Like my whole class like turns around to like look and then looks at me. And I'm like, we're leaving. We are leaving this classroom. We're out of here. We're done for the day. This is like
Uh,
the beginning of the day, basically. So I'm freaking out. I'm like, who did that? Like, who left the classroom and like set this up to like have a clown like peek in the classroom door because we just said, the fear of clowns. So I'm going around and investigating like what happened, like what teacher like sent a clown into my classroom.
a class clown.
A class clown. There you go. Come to find out, the story behind it was the clown was going to like a birthday, you know, for like a primary kid, like, first
Yeah.
grade, and they just went to the wrong room.
Oh, no way.
But I'm thinking like, what are the chances that this
Oh,
happened
yeah.
the day that I've read the story of me being fearful of clowns? Literally almost peed my pants. Like I was so frightened. Like, what the
The
heck?
and the
Anyways,
worst part, the clown didn't come in and go like, "Oh, sorry.
no, no,
And like wave his big clown. He just said
no,
nothing, which is the worst thing a
yeah,
clown can do is just come in
literally
and silently stare and then leave.
so scared. And they
Yeah.
didn't even come in. Like they literally opened the door, peeked in, and shut it, realizing they were not in like first grade lands.
And maybe clowns just are so detached from how creepy they are that they
Yeah,
didn't realize like, "Oh, I probably ruined some people's lives
sure.
today,"
Yeah, they did. They
Like,
ruined
"Oh,
mine. They
oh,
ruined
beef
many.
beef isn't gonna get to sleep tonight,"
No.
Like, they didn't realize what they put you through, but man, that was a perfect setup.
Yeah,
Did the kids
yeah.
think you were behind it? Did they think, like, you'd staged it?
Well, so after we processed it and they figured out like I was not faking that I was freaked out, like that's naturally those questions started coming in. Like,
Oh,
is there
yeah.
others you called somebody? No, I didn't. I promise you, I would never do that.
Oh my gosh.
So
That
yeah, so clown day again, a memory I'll never forget. And my
oh.
students, I guarantee, will never forget that either.
I won't lie, I was hoping it was unresolved and, like, they never found Clown Man and, like, maybe, like, somebody washed ashore a week later and there was no
Maybe,
explanation, but I
yeah.
don't know that I want that,
I
but
hope so. No, I do. I
I'm
hope that that's what happens.
I'm glad we got probably for your sake, I'm glad you got clown closure, like, otherwise, that could have haunted you for the rest of your career. Maybe we're not talking,
Yeah.
maybe you're institutionalized if we never find out what the clown is about.
Yeah, it wouldn't be I would not have been surprised about that, no, for sure, for sure.
Oh, well, that
Clown
is too
closure,
good.
I like that, I like that.
Whew, man, that is a good one, Greg. So we have to somehow pause for our sponsor today for our podcast. And our today's podcast is sponsored by AskJeeves.com. Folks, are you looking for a search engine that is not sophisticated enough to mine your data and won't give you any useful search results? Try AskJeeves.com, where you ask a butler to Google things for you. Ask Jeeves, the handsomest search browser out there. All right, we are back from our latest commercial, Greg. You gotta keep the lights on somehow.
You do, you
So
do.
we're moving into our second segment of the day, Greg. This one is called "Back in My Day." There you go. Back in my day, yes, your favorite segment, listeners, where we talk about humorous stories from when we were students in the classroom.
Yeah,
All
yeah,
right, so Greg, you got a couple good ones lined up for us.
okay.
You take it away.
Alright, so yeah, lots of memories when I was a student. I could have picked it from a whole bunch of them,
For
but
sure.
these are 2 that just classics just come up to my mind, and I think about them regularly, actually. Um So I'll start with the fun one. Again, very nostalgic. John and I were talking about this beforehand, and it's something that we can both relate to. But it was a common game we play on the playground called Butts Up. All you needed was a tennis ball and a bunch of kids and a ball wall, and it was kind of
Yep.
like kickball, kind of, to where you tried to kick it as hard as you could. But what you tried to do was you tried to or take the tennis ball, throw it against the wall, and if you beat the student there to the wall,
No.
they then had to go all up, hands on deck, and you try to nail them in the butt as much as you can, as hard as you could, by the way. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's funny. Where'd you grow up, Greg?
San Jose, California, which is Bay Area, Silicon Valley.
Yeah, yeah. I grew up in a little town called Edgerton, Wisconsin, and Butts Up made it, across, no, I won't say across the coast because we're Midwest, but thousands of miles away.
Yeah,
Like this is just a cultural revolution.
thing. Yeah,
80s for you, 90s for me.
yeah.
I know we both look like we came from the same mother, perhaps. I know podcast listeners, you can't see it right now, but it is eerie.
Yeah,
But yeah, isn't that crazy? Like, there wasn't an internet where you posted the rules to Butts Up. That's a word of mouth game right
yeah,
there.
yeah, it really was. It
Yeah.
really was, and it was something that I guarantee you would not be able to get away with today,
Yes.
on the playgrounds of California, at least.
W-
But yeah, we played it every day.
Oh, for sure.
Lots of bruises, lots of bruises.
And I think everybody had, I don't know, listeners, I'd love to hear if you did too, but I'd love to hear if everybody had a ball wall because we had a ball wall. They put an addition on our elementary school, and so it was the music room windows and that poor music teacher. Like everybody went to that ball, and you're just chucking balls at. Like we had a game called Jacket, and the idea
Yeah.
of the game was you tried to just drop kick your kickball onto the roof, and if you got on the roof, you were the cool kid. And all the misses would just hit her windows. So imagine trying to like conduct a music class and there's just repeated pounding that's out of rhythm against your window. It's the
That's how
worst
you
case
taught
scenario.
that's how you taught 7/8 beat, like, to the drummers, like,
Yeah, right.
that's
There
how
you
that
go.
happens, yeah.
Yeah, there's a lot of teachable moments, but a lot of her like storming out and being like, "Could you cut it out with the
Yeah,
kickball? Like, just
yeah,
give me 10 minutes." All right. Well,
yeah.
let's somehow transition from Butts Up to your next story. This one I think has a sad ending to it, but we'll give her a whirl.
It does, but again, a very vivid memory of elementary school. So back in the day, of course, we remember, eating lunch in the cafeteria. The smells I'm sure are all coming back to you right now of your elementary cafeteria, and of course, you had the typical milk cartons, and after we were done drinking our milk, naturally, us boys would blow up the milk cartons and step on it as hard as you can to make the big booming sound, right?
Absolutely.
We would do this literally every day. I don't know how we got away with it, well, until this day. But we would try to see who could get caught or who could not get caught, in blowing up their milk carton. Well, I got away with it forever, never got caught until this one day. Yard duty catches me blowing up the carton, and I blew it up, made a huge sound. I'm still proud of it, by the way, to this day.
Stand by that sound.
Yeah, 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 and so I must have been the martyr because she took me to the principal's office, and I just got ripped up by the principal, and again, this is not something that would probably happen in today's, uh, punishment society, but, the principal had me go out of the principal wall with a bucket of soap water, hot soapy water, and a sponge, and literally had me wash her wall. And by the way, her wall wasn't dirty, like, literally, it was just to embarrass me
Yeah.
because the way our school was set up, everybody had to leave the hallway going this way to pass the principal's wall. So every student saw me washing the wall, including my sister, and I'll never forget it. My sister sees her big brother washing the wall, and she's just like in tears because big brother's not supposed to get in trouble, let alone be washing the wall of the principal in front of everybody. So
Oh my gosh.
that's what I
Yeah.
remember. I
And
had to go and explain that to my mom, like what just happened, at the end of the day, and then that didn't go well. So
well, I gotta say, I was holding my breath because when you said this punishment wouldn't have flown today, I was afraid the principal was like, some jacked 6'8" guy who was like, I'm going to put you on the ground and step on you and see if you make a sound. And so I was actually relieved when you said, just wash the
yeah,
wall. But you're
yeah,
right. Like, just like
yeah.
this clearly to humiliate you, like public
Oh,
shaming.
totally,
She might as
totally.
well put like an A on your chest and had
Yeah,
you stand in the gallows,
yeah.
like some Scarlet Letter stuff
Oh
going
yeah.
on here.
Yeah, and this principal, by the way, she was a small Italian lady, and you did not wanna get in trouble by her. She was like a principal for, like, 50 years at the school, and so you did not wanna mess with her when you got in trouble, and sure enough, I got jacked that day. So
But you're right. What I was picturing in my head was this dramatic scene, where you're like, it was only me, and you're like, I'm gonna fall on the sword. I did it. No one else.
nope.
I was the ringleader, and
Yeah.
like you took the fall for all these other gentlemen in your grade, and I
Yep.
was picturing some serious like heroics.
I was not that cool ever in my elementary school years.
All right. Well, Greg, our listeners don't know that. If there are any listeners besides my mom, they don't know that.
And my mom, she will be hearing this.
Oh gosh, yes. I'm so happy Mrs. E is going to be listening to Little Beef tell his tales. All right, I'm done with the beef thing.
Yeah,
I think there was a little tinge of like meanness in that nickname for you, and I'm not a fan of it.
I guarantee you there was. Yeah. Remember, I was 5'4" and redheaded, so I guarantee you there was.
Yep. I hear you on that one. I
Yeah.
hear you on that one. Well,
Right.
Greg, we are in our final segment of the day. As everybody knows, it is the Teacher Improv Theater. Okay, the Teacher Improv Theater.
Those are amazing, man.
Thank you. Yeah, and those of you listening to the podcast, you're hearing the like high quality version. Greg's hearing me play it through my phone into
Yeah.
the microphone, and it
So
can't be
solid
good.
audio. Solid audio.
Yeah. So I swear they're going to come through clear on the other end, Greg. If you're like, what did I sign up for? This is
No, I love it.
this is some lowbrow stuff going
I
on.
think you need to make a MIDI version of those like transitions. So I want to hear a MIDI 8-bit like version of that going
That would be phenomenal. Yeah, like we're playing an NES game or something. That'd
on.
be great. So here's how the Teacher Improv Theater works, Greg.
Yep.
So I'm going to do the first one. Greg has volunteered to kind of be the dungeon master, the card master, if you will. So what's going to happen is I'm going to pick a subject that I'm comfortable teaching. So for instance, I'm going to pick Greg. I'm going to keep it broad to give myself some options, strategy. I'm going to go with To Kill a Mockingbird. I was high school ELA teacher, back in the day, and so I'm going to go wide scale. It's going to give me some options. So I'm going to teach that, and Greg is going to first choose two of the cards, the Teacher Improv Theater card deck that I've shared with him. He's going to pick two classroom supply cards. I need to choose one to use as my classroom supplies. So, Greg, do you want to go ahead and do that right now?
I do. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
Your first card is from the classroom supplies, 3 large pig cadavers. Oh, and a graphing calculator.
Okay, so that's one.
That's
Like
one.
I've got 3 pig cadavers and a graphing calculator. Okay, what's my other option?
And then your other one is 37 pieces of butcher paper and a blood-covered butcher's knife. Careful though, John. The handle is still warm.
Oh no. Okay. Oh my gosh. Okay, I'm gonna hold on that decision and hear like my target audience next. So I'm gonna
Okay.
hold on those. So I've got those two in my mind. I'm ready.
Got them in your
Okay.
mind?
So who is my target audience? He's gonna pick two student populations and I have to
Yes.
teach to one of them. Okay, go for it, Greg.
Okay, so here's student population number 1, a classroom where 10 students have emotional support animals, including 5 dogs, 2 pigs, an emu, a parrot, and naturally a peacock.
Okay. So we got a bunch of emotional support animals. Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay.
That's big in California, by the way. That's a real thing here.
We don't see them a ton in Wisconsin. We get a a pot-bellied pig every once in a while, but not much else.
And then, of course, your second one has to be a classroom full of middle schoolers obsessed with doodling genitalia.
Okay. All right. Oh, okay. I think I've got a plan.
This has already become my favorite game ever.
Okay. So, oh my gosh. I feel like hearing those populations, I want to work with I'm afraid of the doodling genitalia. I don't know where I'm going with that with To Kill a Mockingbird. So I'm going to go with emotional support animals.
Okay.
Right. Okay. That's going to be, I'm going to have a bunch of students and I got everything: parrots, emus, peacocks, maybe some dogs and cats in there. I can't recall.
Yes.
So student population, bunch of those. I'm going to go with, I think I'm going to go with the butcher paper and the warm butcher's knife that's blood covered. I know that could come back to haunt me. If investigations are filed, but I'm gonna go with it.
Sure.
And then what Greg's gonna do is he's gonna listen to me. I'm gonna pitch my lesson to him, and then he will actually throw me a curveball in a little bit. So Greg, I'm gonna trust you to choose a curveball. Don't tell me about it now, but you're gonna throw me a
Yep.
curveball halfway through the lesson. Sound good?
Okay. You got it.
All right, here we go. So I think what we're going to do is To Kill a Mockingbird. One of the big overarching themes is that idea of people who are kind of become martyrs, people who didn't do anything wrong, but society pins on because they're different or they're strange, right? And so I think we're going to use that butcher paper, and we're gonna move we're gonna kind of move the bloody kind of butcher's knife to the side for now. It's coming back, Greg. Don't
It's
worry.
a good call. It's a good
But
call.
we're going to have students brainstorm, I think, some people who are marginalized in society, right? We're
Okay.
going to do that. And I think after we brainstorm, I'm going to try to, in a non-threatening way, bring up, some people might treat others differently, for simple things like having an emotional support animal, which is totally fine. But people might, treat them like the mockingbird and blame them,
Mm,
and, it's cruel, it's unfair, just like in the book, terrible things happen to these innocent people. Tom
mm,
Robinson gets shot unfairly, gets sentenced to this unfair thing. You've got this strange neighbor who gets ostracized for just being kind of an introvert. And I pull that bloody knife up, get that butcher's knife in my hand, and I kind of walk over to the peacock and I say, kids, it would be like if I did this to this peacock, for no good reason. I'm going to raise the knife, but I'm not going to actually do it, Greg. I'm
mm.
not going to, but I say, imagine what that would be like if I mistreat this peacock without
Yeah.
having just reason, just because that peacock is a little different, right?
Scary. Scary.
Yeah, yeah, it's going to be creepy. So somehow I've now got my fingerprints on this bloody knife. Not my best move, but that's where I'm at in the lesson. What's my curveball, Greg?
So your curveball, and this is going to be very apropos to what I told earlier.
Okay.
John, it is standardized testing season. Continue describing your lesson, but all of your next sentences must end in to increase math and reading scores.
Okay. So, as I try to, hold back from actually like really proving my point and coming down on that peacock's neck with the butcher's knife, I'm going to say, but I'm not going to do that to increase math and reading scores, right? I
Yeah.
feel like that would be bad for you guys. It might be traumatizing. So to increase math and reading scores, we're not going to do that. But I will say we are going to share our butcher paper that might have blood on it, ideas with each other, talk about like what evidence you can show to prove that this might be happening in real life to improve math and reading scores, of course. And I don't really have a math angle besides asking them to count how many fingerprints I've gotten on this knife that was most likely a murder weapon. But other than
Forensics.
that,
Well,
yeah, I think that's what I got.
that
Yeah.
was great. Well done.
Whew.
Well,
I am emotionally spent after that,
me too.
and probably without a job. In this hypothetical. That's what I got. Greg,
Love it.
I don't know. Looking at the time, I don't know. You, sir, are a busy man. I don't know if
Yeah.
you, want to do an improv ed or if you are full,
I,
sir.
I am I am full to the brim, my friend. I don't know if I could top yours, by the way. That was incredible. What a great
So,
game. That is super cool, though.
yeah. So I do want to say, I was talking with Greg about this earlier. You can on the laughedpodcast.com. I'm going to put up a section where you can submit a card idea for the Teacher Improv Theater card deck. So if you have an idea for a classroom supply that's ridiculous, a student population, or a teacher curveball, you
Hmm.
can submit that along. And I'll have a copy of the slide deck if you want to print these off and play with your teacher friends. I will put a little disclaimer. If you get fired for talking about it, it is not LaughED Podcast or any of its subsidiaries' faults. So I want to get a plug in for that. But also, what I want to do is just thanks so much to Greg. Greg, can't appreciate enough you coming on the show. Where can people reach you at if they want to hear more of these great stories, Greg?
Oh man. Well, they can follow me on Twitter at Gregg Eilers. That's Greg with three G's, by the way.
3G Greg.
Yeah. Yeah, Gregg Eilers. That's where I'm kind of at in the education world, sharing out resources and following some amazing people out there that have so much love to share out there in the Twitterverse. So yeah, at Gregg Eilers on Twitter. We'll go with that one.
Man, that was beautiful, Greg. I got I got a little misty-eyed just hearing you talk about, what people on Twitter have meant to you, That
It's funny
was
because I can't see it.
Greg, shut up. It's a podcast. Come on. Greg just sold me out, but I still appreciate him coming on the show.
I mean, I
Uh,
can hear it. I can't hear it in your voice.
that's true.
Yeah.
Greg, thank you so much for being on the show. I sound like Brett Favre when he retired just now. That's a Wisconsin thing right there. I don't know if that reference is gonna land. I
That's
keep
awesome.
thinking Wisconsin is just the entirety of the world,
It kind of is. It
Yeah,
kind of is.
yeah. I think things rotate around us. I don't know exactly how that works just because of our sheer girth in the state. Um, oh man, I am losing. I hope my family doesn't hear that. Anyways, it has been great. Really circling the drain now, aren't I?
Yeah.
It has been great having you, Greg. If you want to be on the show, anybody listening out there, laughedpodcast.com, and we have the application to submit your stories, and we'd love to have you on. Other than that, everybody, have fun out there, keep laughing, and keep changing students' lives in ways that give us plenty of material to bring onto the show. All right. Thank you so much, Greg. Have a good night.